Welcome, Aries, to your new moon astrology forecast. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. So this new moon astrology forecast is for Aries rising, Aries moon, Aries sun, anybody with strong Aries. And congratulations to you, Aries, because this month is your new moon. So this video is available on all the public platforms. If you are interested in seeing the other forecasts for the other signs, you can do that by being a monthly subscriber through Subscribestar. Link in the description below. So Aries, let's just get right into it since this is your new moon. This Sabian symbol that we see in front of us here, the flying V, this is really this is an idealistic image here, isn't it? It is an idealistic image of being in alignment with cosmic order or cosmic law. So Aries, the essence of this new moon being about this image, is something that we are embodying within us. For the Aries person in particular, this is going right to the essence of who you are. And so we're in your season now, Aries. And truly, it's the first new moon after the equinox where the astrological new year really kicks off. Now, we do have Mercury on one side of this and Chiron on the other. So not only is there a lot of crackling and popping and a lot of really, intense output of mental energy in terms of creativity, in terms of the self, and especially in terms of Aries really thinking about yourself, considering who you are, getting into the hows and whys, and not just accepting what is. You also have Chiron on the other side of it, really surfacing a lot of the wounded nature that we all are dealing with right now when it comes to our subjective experience of I. And this has been going on for Aries, for ever since the Chiron came into Aries. It's going to be here for a number of years longer. So it's not like this is going to suddenly go away. But what is happening is that a new moon is happening right in conjunction with it. So we, are working with these energies so closely with each other. And for the Aries person, it really is going to go to the nature of your identity and what it means to be in alignment with natural or cosmic law, to feel that within your subjective self and your identity, but also how that naturally polarizes the consciousness, the human consciousness, because we have human law and social law and order. And those things, just like this flying V, well, they diverge from a singular point of perfection or a singular ideal point of natural law. And so we're all going to be growing along the lines, hopefully, intending to at least, to grow and develop in accordance to this natural law, whatever it is. But we must accept that there is going to be this divergence in a way that has only been, suggested. I think it's really going to become very clear because it's going to go to the very psyche of all of us, right? Our subjective experience and our ego consciousness. So, and Chiron is that old identity we just cannot get out of because it's imposed upon us by early childhood caregivers. Most of my starseeds, it's their natal Chiron is opposite their natal Pluto, so there is a lot of soul level woundedness that is being worked out right now in this lifetime. But ultimately, we're all feeling this wound of self, and none more than Aries in terms of your identification with being the warrior, the fighter, and a sense of real virtue with who you are. That's like the best case scenario for Aries. So there's a lot of growth that's going to happen for you over this month, but you're also going to be, really triggered in terms of your identity. So let's look at the chart and get an idea of the astrological themes between this new moon on the 1st, leading up to the full moon on the 16th in Libra. This is another starseed activation, as I'll explain. But also, we want to look at the 18th because the sun in the last degrees of your sign, Aries, will square Pluto. And this is going to be a big ego battle. So we want to take some time to look at this for you in particular, Aries. So we're going to look at the chart here and go from there. So this actually is the full moon. I didn't even bring back the chart to the 1st before I even just popped on here and started recording. So let me do that, and I'll just I'll just keep talking while I'm doing that. So the new moon, like I said, with Chiron, this is in your first house, your identity. And the first thing we're going to notice when we actually get to look at this chart is that it's in a square to Black Moon Lilith. In the sign of Cancer, which for the Aries person is the fourth house of home and family. So as an Aries, you really are following a lot of the traditional, configuration of the astrological wheel in your own consciousness and in the way that you live your life and what it looks like. And so Lilith is the dark feminine, and it has this primal sense to it because it's not just our history and subconscious and darkness. It is our connection to the human blueprint. And how it is connected to a sense of self-preservation. So Lilith often will have this primal aspect that is not even really expressible emotionally, but it does come out that way. So it's already pulling the attention, Aries, down into this area of home and family, your marriage, your inner life, your private life, ultimately where you draw your power and stabilization emotionally from. And so this goes from a family of origin to your marriage to your religious customs that you're part of, right? That's something that anchors you emotionally. So, and that comes from the container of family or love of country. Patriotism is a big part of the fourth house too, but it's really about the emotional bonds that guard us, that protect us, and allow us to be emotionally vulnerable. So you're already getting pulled into this area in a deep way, in a way that is maybe not fully accessible to even your own feelings yet, but it's there. It's rumbling under the surface, and it'll be a lot more obvious when we get to our first quarter moon. So the moon will transit into Cancer and it'll square the sun. And it's always these points of the quarters where during the lunar cycle we reach a challenge or we reach some sort of crisis. And the first quarter is like, well, what do I do? Right? So you've set intentions about aligning your identity with this cosmic order or natural law or as an ideal image. Chiron right next to it's going to be like, well, ideal image is one thing, but when's it going to happen? And so there's such a strong potential to act out because of those wounds, or to get caught back into the loop, right? A feedback loop that you are giving a lot of your energy to without even realizing it. But something about where you're emotionally, where you are emotionally secure, and that has to do with the containment system, whatever it is for you. So when the moon gets here, it'll be a lot more accessible, and it'll be, what do I do? And from there, we'll see what, potential of what can be done. There's actually some really cool stuff that's going to be happening, around the 9th and the 10th that gives us a lot of emotional stabilization, and a lot of potential, harmonious, a lot of options of how to, develop and fulfill a transcendent realization. And it'll be about relationships for you, Aries, because that full moon will be in Libra of your 7th house, who you are in your relationships. So you really are working on yourself right now, and there's going to be challenges to that based on where you belong emotionally and what holds you emotionally. So we also want to look at Mars, because Mars is really ruling not only you as an Aries person, but is ruling this new moon. So Mars is going to meet Saturn during this time. And then each of them in turn are going to be in an exact square to the nodes of the moon. These are both starseed positions. The nodes have been activating the Pleiades and Pleiadian starseeds ever since it came into conjunction with Alcyon, which is 0 degrees Gemini. So it's still in this territory. It won't be here for much longer. So it's the Pleiadian nature within starseeds and in general that has been the direction we're being really pulled in order for our soul to learn and to evolve right now. So we want to look at this area in general, because for you, Aries, the 2nd house of resources, this is where Mercury meets Uranus on the 18th. And that's the same day where the sun in your sign is in a square to Pluto. So we want to pay attention not only to this area of who you are, but the world around you, because there's going to be a very, very strong wake-up call here in terms of resources, assets, and collective energies. That is also part of your soul's evolution right now, the direction, which is about being in natural attunement and harmony with the world around you. This is the Pleiadian lesson, open heart. And in the midst of the world around you, and whatever this wake-up call is, it's going to be very rooted in the fixed reality of the material world, whether that's your resources, financially, physically, materially, energetically, or your body. It's going to be like, oh, this is what's emerging, and not to lose. You can simultaneously see and engage with what's coming from the consciousness, the unconscious collective energies, but you also are able to not lose your connection to that. And there's some big awakening that we're all going to have about that. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it will be very much in close to home for you. It'll be in your resource and asset realm. But again, this is about commanding this realm, whatever this means for you. This is the direction of the soul's evolution. So we want to look at this area for a number of reasons, even though so much of the lunar energy right now has started with this Aries new moon with Mercury and Chiron. Everything's going to be shifting over here within the next month. And beyond. And we're going to have eclipse season in May. Basically, May, April 30th is the solar eclipse, and then we have a lunar eclipse in May. So there's that crossover there as well. So again, in the realm of resources, Aries, Mars meets Saturn. This is a brick wall or a force field in the collective social fabric for you. And so best case scenario, as an Aries person, you are like, ooh, a challenge. I am going to allow this brick wall to be my training protocol, right? It is going to be that which I surmount and get better at managing myself within the social fabric, right? This is the 11th house. And so this is a really powerful transit, and it could either go really dark and kind of completely hive mind, if that makes sense, for the greater good, but a strong warrior component behind it, especially as your ruler. But it also can be an incredible amount of disciplined work and training in the social fabric, and specifically your action in relation to the social fabric, and the fact that there's no going past what the collective consciousness is. We can't force the collective, and nobody in their own self can make anybody else change, but we do have the ability to change ourselves. And this is a big part of what Aries is really going to start identifying, right? It's not going to be as accessible and obvious, I think, until into the summer, when Leo and your 5th house is the realm of, oh, this is how I express myself and how I impact the social fabric. Right now, Mars is acting in the greater good, and the greater good is talking about, hey, everybody needs to get disciplined. This is where Saturn is. So this Orion starseed nature is a big part of not only their conjunction, but also the square, again, to the nodes of the North Node and the South Node and the Pleiadian nature. So then we see this natural square between the Orion nature of a strong masculine, disciplined, willpower, analytical, logical, and competitive, and can really suit the warrior nature in some ways when it's very competitive like that, but also too disciplined. Whereas the Pleiadian nature is very experiential, but no less powerful, right? It's powerful for different reasons. So just feeling into those squares, both of them. It's just, it's one thing when you're acting in accordance to the social fabric and society as a whole, and you even feel into the limitations of that, and you see like, oh, that's an opportunity for me to really discipline myself, so I'm not so impacted by what's happening. But to not forget that the pathway of your awakening and your evolution at a soul level is really situated in your harmony with the world around you naturally, and your resources. You can't do as much as we want to, and some people are going to try because they're going to be acting out of all this Chiron, like, I'm trying to change myself, I want to change, I want to actually be in alignment with cosmic law and my very nature, but if it's not happening fast enough or people are triggered, I mean, then it's going to utilize that power of an authority of Saturn to do some real damage. So hopefully not, but I can see that happening for certain Aries people. So this is going to be throughout the course of the week from the new moon into that first quarter moon. So let's look at that, because this is where we start seeing some opportunity to really get into the feels about some things and really allow our sense of connection to find transcendence. It's going to be a really, really great full moon, but it's going to be so important because we're going to need whatever it is we come to experience there for what comes right after it. And in fact, Pluto will be involved with this full moon very directly. So the moon will have moved into Cancer and square the sun, still in your first house, right? You know, you are a virtuous person, Aries, right? And you're finding your sustainment. You're just shining so brilliantly right now because the sun is in your sign and Mercury is still here as well. And so there's still a lot of that crackling, static mental energy that's really like, and you yourself are really like lots of ideas, lots of communication, and really putting it towards yourself, understanding yourself, getting into the pattern of who and why you are as well. And this is part of growing, and this is part of identifying, with your personality when you have the sun here in the first house. So again, though, it's the fourth house of the home and family and your inner life where your emotional security really comes from. And, for as much as you yourself are identifying as this virtuous person of like, me being me and being in tune with my subjective self is like, the little kid giving, food to the birds, right? There's output here and a sense, like I said, a sense of almost pride and confidence with the sun here. Again, though, the moon in the fourth house, especially in Cancer, wow, is just the feels about allowing yourself to just feel into a sense of fulfillment in your family, right? And what is there. And I think that the tension will come with, well, what do I do, right? Because you're going to want to do what the sun in the first house in Aries is going to drive you to do, which is feed and give and give and shine and shine and shine, output, output, output. And where's Mars? Still in the 11th house. In fact, this is pretty, Mars has already passed its square with the nodes at this point. And it looks like it just had a sextile at this point with Mercury. So there is... you're still going to be pulled into these aspects about where you're acting, and the moon is going to be like, well, what about your feels, right? What about your family? What about how you feel in relationship to those in your family, your spouse, and how you feel, right? Are you happy? Can you be happy? Can you find fulfillment in what has been provided by this space, right? And this is, again, your stabilization emotionally. So you really are it's gonna be very like, what do I do, right? Do I keep feeding, right? Do I keep identifying with my own ego, basically? Or, what is this feeling of fulfillment or a sense of being held, or where is my action really going to go towards? My feelings or, my output and expression? And I think within 6 hours of that, almost immediately after, what we're going to see here is that the moon, there's this beautiful water trine, grand water trine with Neptune and Jupiter in a conjunction in Pisces. So we go ahead about 7 hours from that first quarter moon and we're going, well, what do I do? Well, this is what we do. We'll be like, oh, this is what we do. This is what I do, right? And it won't even be a matter of doing as much as you'll feel exactly what the solution is. And yes, there's still tension here with the nodes of the moon, but that's exactly the spine of the kite. Without that tension, without the dragon itself pulling you in that direction, you wouldn't have anything to work around, basically. So this grand water trine, first of all, moon in Cancer, Neptune and Jupiter conjunct. I mean, they're in the same whole degree at this point. They'll be exactly conjunct very, very soon. And then the South Node in Scorpio here. So Aries, you'll feel very clear, it'll be a very stable, harmonious, emotional moment of where you've been at a soul level, which is definitely Scorpio in the 8th house. Like, you have done at some level the transformational work. You've taken the peak experience of power and applied it to your everyday life, or you've taken you've reinvested back into yourself, and you've done that at a soul level before, and now it's about the journey towards being just in alignment with what is, and total command with what is yours. And wow, this expansion, talk about having a real expansive understanding and a sense of your spiritual mission with here, your dharma, truly, at a collective, karmic and a multi-dimensional level. This is some serious, like, oh, I see the whole picture and my part in it, and fully on board with your part in it. And now Venus is here in the 12th house. So a lot of personal value and meaning to this journey, and these endings and these karmic stories fulfilling themselves is going to become even more just more sensitive to it. So it's also to the whole story as well, Aries. And so yes, the ego, identifying through the ego specifically, and that is going to cause some sort of tension with where you're at emotionally. But what you're going to find is so much more connected to that emotional stage. It's going to be like, oh yeah, this is part of where I've been. This is part of, this is part of aligning with a much bigger picture spiritually, and like finding my meaning and representation in it. And it's going to be such a big part of you like pulling it together, Aries. That's really what it is. So when we get to let me check the timer here. Yes. So we're also going to go forward to the actual full moon itself. And let's see here. Like I said, the one thing you're going to notice here is not only is this an full moon in Libra and in Aries, so the full moon is also connected directly to your sign. We're going to see that it's a T-square to Pluto. You can see it right here. And the 18th is when this sun in Aries squares Pluto in Capricorn. So the full moon, it's in your relationship and who you are in relationship that is going to really highlight that transcendent realization within you. And as long as you are able to identify this, the agent of Pluto, right, is the harbinger of death and rebirth, right? They are connected to each other. They are one and the same. But Pluto represents the process of the destruction, the emptiness, and then the transformation and rebirth. All three processes, okay? Pluto does rule Scorpio. This is a feminine sign. In fact, this is where the South Node is in the 8th house. And so at an institutional level, the destruction that has been going on in things like your career, your mission, or just in the larger institutions that you're part of, Aries, it's in the process of pulling it all away that becomes an opportunity that may become that is an opportunity, right? There is no lost opportunity. There may have been lost opportunities, but what I would say is that it's really There is no lost opportunity. There's only opportunity to regain or reignite or try again. And sometimes it just tests our faith in our own self. And Aries, I think this is really applicable to you during this time frame, because if you can identify that the things that have been going, that you've been experiencing at a social institutional level, or your career or your mission in life, right? The institutions you contribute to creating, and what Pluto is basically doing, destroying them, pulling them all away so that there's nothing left but the underlying energetic frequency that is holding it together in the first place. Once that becomes very clear, even as a challenge to the ego, if you can see, well, I would say, if you can see yourself in your relationships and how that allows you, it is in your family, in your relationships, in the emotional bonds and the energy that is generated there, that really will allow you to see yourself transcending something that could be a very, very strong blow to your own sense of self. Okay. And it comes from the destructive aspects of the very nature of reality for the Aries person that is really going to challenge this. Now, Mercury is going to meet Uranus also on the 18th. So this is also going to be a wake-up call, a big one for all of us, right? Mercury and Uranus are the different octaves of the same pitch. It's consciousness, except Mercury is the agent of our own consciousness, and Uranus is the agent of the collective consciousness. And so when they meet together, this is like a complete unifying with that signal, right? This is the wormhole opening in our third eye, opening to that collective consciousness. And it's in a way of natural, again, we're coming back to this natural harmony, and the idea here that as there is an emergence, there's also a need to stay connected to where it came from. I don't know how this is going to play out for us, but for you, Aries, it's going to be very much in the realm of the material world, your resources, and maybe you just have an awakening about the infinite nature of it, even in its material form, and almost an acceptance of the conscious and unconscious being together, right? That there's no control over it. You just kind of live and let live. And so, but it's going to come through a really drastic shifting, at least in your awareness of your resources. So it's not going to be easy, but at the same time as your own ego going through this real battle with Pluto in the 10th house, it's also going to be a huge ego battle for the Aries. So there's a lot here of Aries realizing how important your relationships really are to you, and how they allow for you to actually have the capacity to be in harmony with the world around you. And there's that theme once again. So Aries, I'm gonna leave it there. I think I really summed it up pretty well for you. We're going to, I'll see you again. If you're part of the Starseed Fellowship, I will see you again for the full moon forecast. If you're interested in a personal reading, you can go to catalystenergies.net. That's in the description box below. It's linked there, and you can go to my website, check out my services, and it'll give you everything that you need to know to make that decision. And then, like I said, Subscribe Star is also linked in the description box below for the Starseed Fellowship. Thank you so much, Aries. I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys. Have a great this is your new moon. Embrace it, Aries. You're really growing into yourself right now and really letting go of old stories. And part of that is allowing yourself to, I think, refresh yourself in your relationships and really establish the importance of them in your life, which I know is kind of hard for an Aries person because it's always like an output, but it's just as important that you allow your relationships to also give you a sense of comfort and security and what they mean to you, right? And be aware of that. So take care, Aries. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.